I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Hey, Foxy listeners. Today is episode 99, and it is titled You're Worth More. And the reason this is coming up is I've had a lot of people that have been emailing me, but more specifically my consulting clients, that has one main issue that comes up with almost every single one of them, and that is not feeling worth their rate. So tons of times, and I'm sure you felt this too, that you have that sort of inner gut check that you're like, ugh, am I charging too much for this? Like, is my hourly rate crazy? Does this make sense? And this isn't something that goes away. So disclaimer, this will, I think, continuously happen. I know it happened to me. I was just creating some new projects that were, doing some new packages that we're putting together. And I did the same thing, is this what I'm charging? And so I end up going through the same exercise time and time again that I teach my clients. And I do it on myself when I need that reflection to go, am I on par with what I need to be charging? So I thought, since I do this so much myself and my clients really seem to love this and it helps them really put stuff in perspective, that it should be something that I share with you because I love you so much. So now, this lack of confidence in your rate comes from many numerous things, and you have to decide what that is. It could be due to our current circumstances with the COVID shutdowns, feeling that, maybe your rate isn't good. A lot of people feel it through inexperience. So you're new to the field or you're new to this particular product or service that you're offering. You need to decide, write down, why do you feel that you're charging too much? Because it's important to know what those emotions, what those feelings, what those thoughts are going on in your head. And the next thing I want you to do is start to make the list. Now, I have sort of a fill in the blank template that I give my clients, but I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of the stuff you're going to do. Now, another disclaimer, you're going to have to do a little bit of math. So you decide how you want to do this. So I want you to make a list. Here's what's going to be on the list. I want you to list off your education. So any amounts of money that you spent on college, university, trade school, tuition, books, supplies that you needed for school, all of that will go under education. And you can add it up. Now, if you're anal like me and you actually break it off into books and supplies, you can do whatever, but just a number is good. And this doesn't have to be super specific. We're not handing this in. Teacher is not grading you. So it can just be an estimate if you don't actually want to go back and look at all of it. And I'll explain that a little bit more in one of the other categories. So the next thing that I want you to write down is workshops and seminars. Now, this is the one that I said just a few seconds ago I'm going to be talking about a little bit more. This one, I do want you to take a little bit of a harder look, whether you pull up your bank statements or however you keep your finances, and really pay attention to this because you will be surprised how much money you have actually spent in the span of your career on workshops and seminars. Now, this is whether you've spent $1 or more gets added into this, whether it's online or in person, whether it's directly related to your industry or not. It just needs to be business related. So as an example, I took a course in Facebook and algorithms. Now, I am not a social media expert. That is what this seminar was related towards. But the reason I took it was because I wanted to expand my knowledge in that area to be able to share that information with my clients. So it is business related. So I hope that helps to put this workshop and seminar category into a little bit of a better perspective for you. So yes, you will probably be shocked by this number. I know that I and most of my clients usually are. The next thing that I want you to do is look at your books. So this is any books that you bought to learn from. Now, if you're a bookworm like me, there probably is a lot and you don't really want to know the amount, but it's important. So now, again, another disclaimer, you cannot say that you learned to be more caring by reading your Harlequin romance books. Now, I can make a connection in just about anything, but these need to be obviously books that you've bought specifically to help you enhance yourself in the work that you do. Now, going through your collection, like I said, if you're a big bookworm like me, can seem really daunting. So sometimes what I say to people is just go to your collection of books, count how many you have, and multiply that by, say, $20 or $25, which is typically the average book cost. And then add that up. This was a surprising one for me. I've spent a lot of money on books, let me tell you. The next category is programs. So this, I want you to add up all the money that you've spent on computer programs that you bought or other programs that you bought to do your job. So accounting programs, design programs, anything that you needed to service your customers and your clients better. If you're in a retail store, this includes your point of sale system and all of those other things. So that all gets added into this. Now, if you're going, well, the accounting program is for me, it doesn't matter. It's still business related. If you wouldn't buy that program if it wasn't for your business, add it into this category. The next category is memberships. So take a look at all of the memberships that you have. So are you a member of your local chamber? Any business groups that you belong to? Any mastermind groups that maybe you pay a monthly fee to be a part of? Do you pay extra every month to have a larger Google Drive? Do you have virus protection programs and so on? All of these would then get added underneath the membership category. The next category is equipment. This can sometimes be a big one too. So computers, printers, cameras, maybe you're a massage therapist, so you needed to buy a massage table, anything again that you needed to buy to do your job, your desk, your chair, your calculator, if you're an accountant or a bookkeeper. All of those gets put underneath equipment. The next category is staffing. So do you have employees? Do you hire contractors? Maybe on a regular basis, even on a semi-annual basis. Do you have a virtual assistant? All of those type of costs would get put underneath staffing. Now, if you one time hired somebody for one small specific job, you don't necessarily need to put it, but I'll leave that to your discretion to choose. Again, you're not handing this in to teacher, and it'll all make sense when we start adding it up. And then the last category is others. So this other category is items that you think, oh, I need to add this for sure. So that could be stuff like, say, maybe a uniform. Do you work outside? So you're required to have, certain heavy clothing that you maybe wouldn't normally have for, the elements that are going on for your job. Do you work in a job that requires you to have PPE and you have to make sure that you purchase that? Do you need steel-toed boots for your job? Those types of things you can add underneath other. This could also be if you just want to have a uniform. So maybe you are somebody that does computer repair and you like to have shirts that have your company logo on it. Add that into here as well. All right, so now we have all of our numbers. We've got our education, our workshops and seminars, any books, programs, memberships, equipment, staffing, and our other category. Now it's time to total all of that up. Now, most people are surprised by how much they've spent on gaining all the knowledge that they have. And this typically happens because you're spending it all over time. It's like $100 here and there, and it doesn't seem so much at the time. But when you add it up, it's a lot of money. So I'm sure some of you might be sitting there going, great, now what? Like, thanks for the reminder. Now I know I've spent a shitload of money to get all of this stuff in my head. But the reason I want you to do this is because now we're going to do a little bit of a math problem. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through, and it's a simple calculation. So here's what you're going to do. Whatever that total amount is that you had on stuff that you've spent on all of those categories, I want you to take that amount and divide it by 2,000. So why 2,000? Here's where I've gone a little bit more simplistic in this calculation for you. So all I did is let's figure 40 hours a week at 50 weeks a year, because let's just, let's live in a dream that as entrepreneurs, we take 2 weeks off for holidays. And frankly, this just makes the math easier. So let's say, for example, we're going to use that number that I'd spurted out and do $500,000. So we've spent $500,000 in all of these categories. I divide that by the 2,000 hours in a year, and that works out to 250. So this is where it's a good number, and it's not meant for you to go, oh, that's my hourly rate. It's meant for you to understand that, are you charging too much? Now, I also need you to remember that we have not even taken into consideration how long you've been in this field. And I'm not just talking about how long you've been an entrepreneur, but even those years you worked in the corporate world as well. All of those years count for something. So again, here's another disclaimer. I'm not saying take this number and voila, that's your new hourly rate, because there are many other factors in pricing your hourly rate, in pricing anything, as a matter of fact, such as your living cost, your other expenses for just running the business, what the market will allow, and so on. So to actually get an hourly rate, there's a lot more things that we need to consider. The purpose of this exercise is just to show you in simple terms that you deserve more than you're charging. Now, in my 23 years of using variations of this formula, but the base has always been the same, I would say that maybe 5% of people had an amount that was higher than what the calculation was. Most of the times, it was not. I often hear clients say that they're worried that they're charging too much. They're concerned people will raise their eyebrows or start to question it. And that's why I wanted to share this exercise with you, and why I share it with my clients, and that I think it's important. Because you need to realize that for someone else to gain all that is in that beautiful, exquisite brain of yours, it would take them years and even decades and tens of thousands of dollars. And even if they spent those years and all of that money that you did, they would not be able to ever match your unique way of thinking. So I want to ask you again, do you still think you're charging too much? Now, if you're going, well, this is great. I've spent a lot of money. I'm worth more than what I'm charging, which is good. That's the situation you want to be in. But how do I figure out my pricing? Well, I got somebody on the show who is going to be able to help you with that. So I'm going to urge you to turn in next week, as we're going to talk more about how to specifically create pricing with my very special guest, Mark Peacock. Mark Peacock is the founder of Price Maker and is called the pricing coach for a reason. Now, his agency, Price Maker, helps SMEs increase profit with better pricing. And this is following a 25-year career in the corporate life. Mark set up his own business about 3 years ago to really focus on pricing, because he knew from his own experience how important pricing is to business success. He now helps businesses across a wider range of sectors review their pricing, and typically can help them achieve a 30% increase in net profits as a result of just having better pricing. So tune into that, and that will really help you to hone in on those specific numbers. But again, please do this exercise because I think sometimes it's important for us to sit down and realize our worth and realize how much time, effort, years, hours, decades that we've put in to be able to think the way we think, to be able to provide the services that we provide. There's a lot of worth in you. And sometimes we forget to sit down and do that. And this exercise just helps you put it into number form. So whether you are playing around with numbers or whether you're just listening over and over again to me tell you, you are worth more than you think. Make sure that no matter what you're doing, you find some time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?